the United States. They don't care about us because they don't work for us. And I do believe that all of it was planned by the deep state, all of it. And that none of it is an accident. What is really sad, though, is that the American people, or the citizens of this country, keep arguing about nonsense, things that are never going to change, because they don't understand the basic premise that the government of the United States was created to enslave us. And that is all it is. And once everybody in the world all gets together and says, we've had it, no more wars, no more nonsense, no more whatever. The 1% can do whatever they want by themselves somewhere else. Why don't we ship them to Syria and some other country that they've already destroyed?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Brenda. Let me take a couple calls right now.
Okay,
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Greetings, humanity of all over the world. We are anonymous. The shadow forces behind the New World Order are following a slow-paced agenda of total control over mankind and our planet's resources. David Icke coined it the totalitarian tiptoe, because they are making very small steps towards our complete and definitive enslavement. As a result, the masses remain relatively unaware of the fact that their liberties are being gradually taken away, while the power of the New World Order octopus grows steadily. Somewhere near the very top of the pyramid, an extremely elitist organization known as the Council of the 13 Families orchestrates all of the major world events. As the name suggests, the council consists of the top 13 most influential families on Earth. An increasingly number of people is becoming aware that 99% of the Earth's population is controlled by an elite of 1%, but the Council of the 13 Families consists of less than 1% of the 1% elite, and nobody on Earth can apply for membership. In their opinion, they are entitled to rule over the rest of us, because they believe that they are the direct descendants of the ancient gods, and consider themselves royal. These families are 1. Rothschild, Bauer, or Bauer. 2. Bruce. 3. Cavendish, Kennedy. 4. De Medici. 5. Hanover. 6. Habsburg. 7. Krupp. 8. Plantagenet. 9. Rockefeller. 10. Romanov. 11. Sinclair, St. Clair. 12. Warburg, Del Banco. 13. Windsor, Saxe-Coburg Gotha. Personally, I suspect that this may not be the complete list, and some very powerful lineages are still unknown to us. The Rothschild dynasty is unquestionably the most powerful, visible bloodline on Earth, and their estimated wealth is around $500 trillion. They exercise their power through the world banking empire, which is almost entirely owned by them. The most important institutions that work hard to establish the New World Order and completely enslave our species are 1. The City of London, finance, controlled by the Rothschilds, not part of the United Kingdom. 2. The United States Federal Reserve, finance, private bank, owned by the Rothschilds, not part of the United States. 3. The Vatican City, indoctrination, deception and scare tactics, not part of Italy. 4. Washington, D.C., military, mind programming, brainwashing and depopulation, not part of the United States. All of the above institutions function as individual states, operating under their own laws, hence, there is no court of law on Earth that could ever prosecute them. The multitude of secret societies in existence today operate as branches of a mega corporation, which is owned by the Council of the 13 Families. even though they have been handsomely rewarded for their work. The members of these secret societies are not members of the elite bloodlines, they don't know who their masters are, and they have no idea what the real agenda is. Another mass enslavement tool that they are using against us is the so-called educational system. Schools are no longer what they used to be, and children are learning to memorize without thinking, and obey without questioning. In fact, this established educational system is extremely expensive to keep operational, and obsolete in the age of the internet. Why obsolete, you may ask? Because the internet gives us free access to almost infinite amounts of information. So why are we still paying huge amounts of money for governmental education? Because the world's elite require that our children learn conformity and inside-the-box thinking. Mankind's faith is hanging in the balance right now, as the control of the New World Order octopus spreads. On the one hand, we are very close to our complete enslavement, while on the other hand, we could easily crumble to the ground their pyramid of power, by simply uniting against their deception in a peaceful revolution of minds, hearts and souls. We've asked for years what their greatest weapon of enslavement is. Is it poor education combined with constant indoctrination? Is it the fear generated by religion? Is it the fear of being punished, jailed, or killed by the system? Or is it the invisible enslavement of the monetary system? In our opinion, all of the above combined had a huge impact on our society and the way we think, but their biggest weapon is hands down the financial system. The financial system has stealthily enslaved our species, and now we are being used as currency slaves. We all work from 9 to 5 every day, in boring and depressing environments, not stimulated by anything creative or constructive. In most cases, the sole motivation for going to work is the next paycheck, and no matter how hard we work, we never seem to have enough money. Have you ever wondered why megacorporations reaping billions a year in profits pay dozens of millions to their CEOs, and as close as possible to the minimum wage to the rest of the employees? This has been carefully designed, because a person that is constantly on the edge will never have time for self-education, introspection, and eventually, spiritual awakening. Isn't this our main purpose on Earth? To become spiritual beings, and by spiritual, we obviously don't mean religious, and complete the incarnation cycle. They don't need educated people, who are capable of critical thinking and have spiritual goals. No, this kind of people are dangerous to the establishment. They want obedient robots, just intelligent enough to operate the machines and keep the system running, but stupid enough never to ask questions. All of the world's biggest problems have their roots deeply embedded in the financial plague. Wars are profitable, diseases are profitable, Earth's plundering is profitable, human slavery and inhumane working conditions are profitable. Our leaders have been corrupted by money, and mankind's collective mission on Earth has been hijacked by money. So why do we need the financial system in the first place? Actually, we don't need it, at least, not anymore. The planet doesn't charge us a cent for using its natural resources, and we have the technology to extract them without physically working a day. More to the point, there are brilliant minds out there, discussing the concept of a resource-based economy for decades. One example is Mr. Jack Fresco, a brilliant industrial designer and social engineer, who spent most of his life designing the future. The cities proposed by Mr. Jack Fresco will be built by autonomous construction robots and will be eco-friendly and self-sustainable, earthquake and fireproof. Other people are already discussing the transition plan towards the economy of the future, where money are no longer required, and all individuals will be offered the best conditions to reach their highest potentials, all for the benefit of our species, as a whole. So, our question is, are we ready to embrace the future, and escape the control of the elite in a world without money? Or are we going to allow the New World Order plan to happen? We are all anonymous by default. United as one. Divided by none. to the rich, greedy, filthy slave creators. You will be removed. Expect that.
The Balfour Declaration was a letter written to Lord Rothschild. So in order to understand the Balfour Declaration, we have to know who Rothschild was.
Money is power. Money is the only weapon that the Jew has to defend himself with.
Meyer Amschel Bauer, born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1744, was a moneylender and a goldsmith on Jew Street, whose shop had a sign out front with a red hexagram on it. Eventually, he would change his name to Rothschild, which is German for red sign. Rothschild soon learned that loaning money to governments and kings was more profitable than loaning money to private individuals. Not only were the loans bigger, but they were secured by the nation's taxes. Meyer Rothschild had 5 sons whom he trained in the skills of money creation and sent out to the major capitals of Europe to open branches of the family banking business.
You are 5 brothers. I want you each to start a banking business in a different country. One to go and open a house in Paris, one in Vienna, one in London. Choose the most important centers, so that when money is to be sent from here to London, let us say, you won't have to risk life and gold. Amschel, here in Frankfurt, will just send a letter to Nathan in London saying, pay so-and-so. And that will be offset by loans from London to Frankfurt. Understand?
Yes.
In your day, there will be many wars in Europe. And nations that have money to transport will come to the Rothschilds because it will be safe. Your 5 banking houses may cover Europe, but you will be one firm, one family, the Rothschilds, who work always together. That will be your power.
When Meyer Amschel Rothschild died in 1812, he left a will instructing his sons in how the House of Rothschild would be operated. All key positions in the House of Rothschild were to be held by members of the family. The family was to intermarry with their own first and second cousins, thus preserving the vast fortune. Rothschild's heirs were strictly forbidden to ever disclose the amount of their wealth. The whole family was driven by an insatiable lust for the accumulation of wealth and power. They secretly financed both sides in various European wars, dominated European banking, and by the mid-1800s had become the richest family in the world.
Rothschild helped found Israel, and Rothschild has always been the backer of Israel. Whatever Rothschild wants, he gets. It is believed that he is the richest man in the world, and I have little doubt of that.
fell officially for the final time in 410 and was really never an empire after that. They kind of reorganized it, but it never really became what it had been. The official, the most historians agree, is 410 when Alaric sacked Rome. And I thought no one as bad as the middle-page Catholics run it all through.
But you have the emperors continuing up until like the mid-600s or so, right?
Well, those were, the Holy Roman Emperors, yeah.
Eretz Yisrael.
Well, he extends that, as you mentioned, Maya, to Judea and Samaria, which he says is the land of our ancestors, where Abraham and David and so on walked. This is indeed an articulation of the claim to Eretz Yisrael as set forth in 1947 by Rabbi Fishman when he presented a formal map to the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, when the Jewish Agency was advancing its proposition as to what constituted Eretz Israel, or the land of Israel.
Well, it went further than Judea and Samaria, Ralph. It goes to...
They produced a map, as we've often discussed on Taking Aim, based upon the second volume of Theodor Herzl's historic work on the Zionist project. And the map, I believe it's on page 731 of volume 2, sets forth unmistakably and clearly what do these people, and that includes Benjamin Netanyahu, what do they mean by Eretz Israel, or the land of Israel? All of Palestine, all of Cisjordan, all of Lebanon, 2/3 of Iraq, 1/2 of Syria, the southern tier of Turkey, 1/3 of Arabia, Egypt up to the Nile, including Cairo, indeed, even Kuwait. There is a very...
Lebanon up to the Litani.
No, not all of Lebanon, Maya.
Ah.
The map includes all of Lebanon, as I mentioned, 1/2 of Syria, 2/3 of Iraq, southern tier of Turkey, Cisjordan. I mean, it is indeed a region which is considered by the Zionists from their inception to be project. And every spokesperson has articulated the view that these questions of what constitutes the land are on a timetable, and the Palestinians are usurpers. They have no historic relation to this land. They are simply a remnant, opportunist, nomadic tribal presence who have intruded themselves upon Eretz Israel. And what's extraordinary about this, of course, is that Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu is descended from people who have no relation to Palestine, historic or other, because Ashkenazim or European Jews, such as Mr. Netanyahu or ourselves for that matter, are in fact descendants of the Khazars, a 8th and 9th century empire that converted to Judaism at the time, from which European Jews are descended. Indeed, as I've often discussed, if one wanted any, as it were, scientific data which demonstrates the ethnic origins of European Jewry, for what the hell it matters, apropos the question of Palestine, but here's the point. European Jews are susceptible to a genetic condition known as Tay-Sachs disease, analogous to what African Americans suffer with
sickle cell anemia.
Sickle cell anemia. What's interesting about this is that only European Jews are susceptible to this genetic trait. No Semitic people is. That means none of the Jews from the Arab East, the Mizrahim.
From Yemen or from Iraq.
Yemen or Iraq or North Africa or any of the areas of the region, because like their Arab brothers and sisters, who are, as are the Arab Jews,
the Palestinians would be converts to Islam.
Well, the point is very ironic, as we've often made it, and I think we should take just this brief moment to emphasize this. Who do you think was converted to the proselytizing and dynamic Islamic religion in the 6th century? The indigenous inhabitants. They were Jews. They were non-believers. They were Zoroastrians. They were people of various local religious and other views, animist views. The irony of all this is that the Palestinian people have a greater genetic link to the Jews of the region by descent than the Ashkenazim, who have no relation to this region whatsoever. So this is essentially a racist and pseudoscientific attempt historically to lay claim to an area and to translate their God into a real estate agent. This belongs to you, and this belongs to you, and da-da-da-da-da. There is no remote scintilla of evidence to establish a relationship between Jews in the world today and this region. None whatsoever, because the Jews of the period were expelled to Babylonia, and the remaining tribes were entirely assimilated to the populations of the area. And indeed, they are the antecedents of the Palestinian population. They have a greater relationship to the Hebrews of the early period than any Ashkenazim, who is none whatsoever, by way of punctuating the irony and the point about the nature of a colonial settler project as an instrument of imperial conquest and nothing